204863. 204863. 204863. 2048.
Do you close your eyes when watching horror films? I don't blame you, I do it as well. In fact, I can't remember the ending of most roller coasters because I always close my eyes before the final plunge. People have ways of comforting themselves when they feel afraid. Sometimes that involves closing their eyes, digging their fingernails into the chair, and waiting for the terrifying moment to pass. But if horror entertainment can force us to look, it makes the moment all the more terrifying. Video games have found an invaluable way of terrifying players. They've essentially removed the safety blankets that we cling to and pried our fingers from our eyes. By removing that sense of comfort that we feel, it allows us to experience the depths of our fear. Weapons. Weapons are one of those safety blankets that gamers cling to. If you remove the weapons from a game, you remove one of the barriers between a gamer and their fear, therefore increasing fear. Weapons can serve many purposes in games. They can entertain, excite, and humor us gamers. But in horror games specifically, they often give us a sense of security. They protect us from the monsters that pursue us. Dead Space, for example, is filled with horrifying creatures, but allows you the satisfaction of dismembering them in creatively gruesome ways. But what happens when you remove a player's weapons? Many horror games such as Amnesia, Outlast, and Fatal Frame omit weapons entirely. In the 2001 game Fatal Frame, for example, weapons are replaced with a camera. In order to defeat the ghost attacking you, you must take a picture of the ghost's weak points. In turn, the only way to fight the thing that is causing you fear is to look at it closely. What better way to make a player feel defenseless than to force them to look? To force them to continue examining the terrifying creature that inspires their fear. However, a game doesn't have to completely remove weapons. Some horror games make weapons scarce or enemies excessively powerful. As a result, weapons don't offer any security to the player and can sometimes be a liability. The early Resident Evil games were horrifying despite their limited graphics and problematic voice acting, because save points were scarce and enemies powerful. Every bullet counted. Likewise, The Evil Within, despite causing me an emotional breakdown, was a great game from a gameplay standpoint. The boss battles required patience and strategy.
What the? What is that?
What unites all of these games, from Fatal Frame to The Evil Within, is vulnerability. When you compromise a player's weapons, you make them feel vulnerable. And vulnerability is a great catalyst for fear. Another safety blanket that gamers cling to is the protagonist. A strong and powerful main character can inspire confidence in the player. Aloy, Lara, Kratos, Geralt, these are all very strong and capable protagonists that have an intimate knowledge of combat. They wouldn't cower in the face of fear. But what happens when you have a main character that does cower in combat? In Amnesia, the character isn't a badass, but an unstable, emotionally traumatized man. You have to protect both his body and mind from the monsters chasing him. Your character is unarmed, and you can only steal small glances at the enemies that pursue you as you run. Because you are not given the comfort of a weapon, the enemies are more of a threat. Although some would argue this game hasn't aged gracefully, it inspired many games that followed, including one of my favorite horror games, Outlast. Outlast also has a similar premise, but is set in a mental asylum. The gameplay involves hiding from crazed maniacs with only a camera light to see in the darkness. Even more unsettling, the camera has a dying battery. This game takes away your comfort of safety by stripping you of a weapon, but it also removes your comfort of sight. If you use up the camera's battery, you'll be stranded in the darkness with men that will do unspeakable things to you. Things I definitely can't show in this video.
Murder is the simplest form, but what happens when all money's gone? Well, money becomes a matter of faith. And that's what I'm here for. To make you believe. You paying attention? Don't pass out on me. There's still a lot for you to absorb. There. Better now, right?
In Outlast, there is no strong, weapon-clad hero to hide behind. The player is looking through the eyes of an average, traumatized man. As a crazed lunatic begins chasing this man with a knife, we have no shields or spells to protect him. If a game has a vulnerable protagonist, it has a vulnerable player.
Listening to the radio. Several days before the murders, look behind you. I said, look behind you.
Following the legend of these horror games was a demo for the new Silent Hill game called PT. Now, the Silent Hill game was never released, but this demo stands alone as one of the most terrifying examples of horror in games that I've ever encountered. I think PT is one of the most perfect examples of a game that makes you feel defenseless. A dimly lit household hallway isn't an inherently frightening thing. You've walked through many, stumbled half asleep to the bathroom or kitchen for a late night snack. But add a few unsettling sounds. The swinging of a metal door, a humming radio, a thud on the door, and you'll start to feel a bit uneasy. Slowly, your surroundings grow more unnatural. Some music begins to gently play, and you hear a child crying. Your unease increases. The child's cries are replaced with those of a woman. The cries sound muffled and mechanical. They seem to follow you. This woman is crying in your ear. You can almost feel her breath against the back of your neck as she cries louder. She sucks in a painful, scratchy breath and chuckles against your neck and... A good horror story is a patient one. One that doesn't tell you immediately how to feel, but instead slowly and patiently builds dread. PT also removes all of the player's safety blankets. You have no weapons, a completely first-person perspective, so no strong protagonist, and you don't even have the ability to hide or run. You can only walk forward, again and again and again, in a very Dante-esque, repetitive cycle. PT works because it has a non-conventional, unpredictable environment. It doesn't attempt jump scares immediately. It slowly and patiently hints at the ghost that is breathing down your neck. I hope video games continue to play with our expectations by removing the video game tropes that we cling to for comfort. So what are your favorite horror stories? Horror books, games, or movies? I've become increasingly interested in horror over the last year or two. I wasn't interested in it before because, frankly, I get scared very easily. Now I find horror a bit cathartical. Like there's something a bit powerful about being able to control what you see and control how you feel afraid. It kind of gives you back a sense of power in a way. But maybe that's a topic for another video. Why in the hell do we enjoy being afraid so much? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you all for my patrons for voting on the topic of this video. I should go.